Hi, I'm Austin Robey. I'm a co-founder of Metalabel, um, and yeah, I'm excited to be here to there we go chat about this publication that was produced in collaboration with Metalabel and Co-Matter together, and Severin kind of gave an overview of what the creator economy is, all the landscape of tools and services of how we create, produce, distribute, release, monetize creative work online. And what I want to share here is a bit of those takeaways, but primarily the project itself, how the project came together, and how the project demonstrates some of these ideas that we are suggesting here. So, there we go. Um, so, how this publication came together was a highly collaborative effort. So we had two primary partners, which is Metalabel, which is a squad of 7 people, and Co-Matter together, and as well 30 plus contributors, participants that helped create this. So one of the things that we're thinking about is shedding this idea of the kind of lone creative genius, and there are many creator economy reports out there. These are primarily industry type reports that talk about industry trends or this kind of neutral survey of what tools are available. And so this commentary on the creator economy is meant to be more opinionated, and it doesn't really surface new quantitative data necessarily, but is more of an emotional survey. So what does it feel like to be a creator online today? And talking to interviews with 12 people, including Callum, from a wide range of disciplines and practices of this kind of emotional anxiety that is associated with releasing work online. So, I mean, it's 2023. Like, why are we still talking about the creator economy? It's like, that's very 2019 or 2020. But I think the important thing is signaling what is next. So, seeing a way of creating work online that is more collaborative, that is more cooperative, that has different power dynamics that don't accrue purely to a platform. One where there is an effective voice for creators and the infrastructure that they use, shared ownership, shared resources, democracy, and on a technical level, ways to preserve art and media so that it can be permanent and not be as reliant on corporate databases. So the book is broken down into 4 chapters, and the primary takeaway from this chapter on connection is that the creator economy is lonely, isolating, and individualistic. That the creator economy doesn't align with how we view our creative practices, how we make work, how we want to present it to the world. The creator economy is extractive and extracts value and decenters power, effective power away from creators towards platforms, and that it's also fragile. That anyone creating work online is subject to any changes in policy, ownership, and our creative practices, which rely so much on platforms, can be out of our control. So we talked to many people about this general idea of like what it feels like to not have support, or what it feels like to be producing work as an individual versus a collective. So we interviewed Picture Plane, a musician from Brooklyn who does have a label, but this tweet from 2020 stuck out to me. It says, making music for me would be a lot easier if I had some sort of encouragement from people. I have no manager, no label, no one getting excited if I make something new. I just have to make myself excited. And also spoke to the author of this great book on different artist collaborations of collectives and duos, past and present, Ellen Mara de Wachter, who shared in the creation of this book, wanted to actually have all of the contributors be listed as authors. But in the book publishing world, this is actually difficult to do. It's harder to search on Amazon if you have more than one author. And so there are kind of like many reasons that kind of detract from this kind of like sole authorship in the creator economy. And the book itself has many contributors. So many people worked on this. I know Ilya Yudinov did the design for it, which is wonderful, and many different people interviewed, as well people contributing, sourcing images, doing research. And we were inspired by groups like Songcamp, who created a 77-person band called Chaos, releasing work under one common identity, as well as groups like Radar, who collaboratively produce research reports, and Water and Music, which do something similar. And so we highlighted this kind of friction between how we want to create work and the kind of content demands of platforms. So I'm proud of this original meme. I think this is my first meme. And so we talked about burnout and algorithmic anxiety, and also this idea of promotional labor, which so much of us have to do. I think especially musicians are really tired of this. I really like Sherry Hu from Water and Music servicing this from Dan Schipper of Every, which is a newsletter collective, thinking of kind of a time-bound project-based work being more valuable than kind of non-bounded companies or startups. So thinking of, I think one solution to this issue of being on this content hamster wheel and feeling like you can't get off of this treadmill is releasing work as kind of like a drop. So thinking of work as releases that form a coherent catalog. So at Metalabel, this is how we are approaching creative output, is a series of releases. And this book in collaboration with Co-Matter is the 6th release. So seeing releases any form of media, our first release was an essay. The second one is a web app. The third one is a cohort for 20 plus cultural collectives. The fourth one is a Discord app that lets people tweet together by upvoting in a Discord. And then lastly, the one before this book was an online publication. And so I think like thinking about work in terms of a catalog of work for us at Metalabel, everything that we do is supporting this idea of creativity and multiplayer mode. On the topic of power within this book, there's an interview with Nathan Schneider, professor at University of Colorado Boulder, who makes this nice distinction between what kind of power exists in today's creator economy and what kind of power we should strive to have. So we have effective voice with an A of this idea of expressing your feelings, being able to speak, and maybe even being heard. So this is, I think, where kind of viral outcries come from. It's like removing kind of effective voice, so what do you have? It's affective voice. Whereas effective voice, using the mechanisms of power, so having like encoded ways to enact change. Trevor Scholes, another professor at New School, shared these different terms that are used in the creator economy. So I think there's a lot of solidarity theater. We think of sharing economy, all these nice words. But I think the way that he left it off is really nice about thinking about what's next. Of what if artists and designers would organize in a worker-led, self-organized, and self-managed organizations that are small and local, but networked internationally and shared digital infrastructure. And in thinking about how we incorporate some of this within the zine, obviously the zine itself is not going to solve all these power dynamics within the creator economy. But what we did was create an on-chain splits contract with 30 plus people that is fully transparent, so that anytime someone purchased a zine, that all these people were compensated instantly. And I think an important part touched in the zine is this overlooked idea of platform risk. So we highlighted all these platforms that are lost, and stories of people that have grieved the loss of content that's deeply personal to them. And I mean, one example is MySpace. MySpace lost over a decade of music, and that's a great loss. There's tremendous anthropological value of a decade of music that is lost forever. And even just personally, I tried to find my music I made in high school on Pure Volume, and now it's a clickbait farm, and that music is no longer there. So what we did in terms of the distribution of the zine is release this as a record as a recording of a work's existence on chain, and a record as a container of material. So within the split was actually a waterfall to recoup the cost of printing. And once those costs were recouped, then all the contributors were compensated. And so the record itself contains a PDF that is anchored on chain using IPFS as a way to not be as reliant on any intermediary or any outside data storage that could be fragile. And at Metalabel, Yancey Strickler, who's part of the Metalabel squad, has written about this as well, conceptualizing the use of on-chain rails outside of thinking about crypto, and instead thinking about after crypto, the on-chain era. So in us thinking about why use Web3 at all, it's heavily rooted in what we see as the value of permanently archiving media on chain, and doing so in a way that's interoperable. And all this to us is like, in the way of creating the zine, is thinking about how can we kind of demonstrate or express some of the ideas in the zine itself. So just closing with this nice thought from Natty Linares, who was interviewed for the zine. Natty is part of art.coop, and had this really nice thought about creativity as a supply chain. So she said, what is the supply chain of making a theater performance? There's a venue, performers, an audience, ushers, the person that prints out the scripts, and even the source of paper itself. That's a supply chain. So I think in the spirit of this project, it's worth recognizing all of the contributors that worked on this, as well as the lineage of ideas that inform this. Groups like Trust and Black Swan, which have informed this. So want to give a shout out and thank you to everyone that participated or purchased a zine. And they are sold out. It's kind of weird to do a book launch at a sold out book, but it is free forever to download the PDF here at collect.metalabel.xyz. So So thank you.